Hello, everybody, and welcome to the United Stand. Sorry, a bit late. I've got Levin on the show. We've got some headlines to get into. Obviously, Levin's not been on the show because of his other duties on Sunday, and then he was at a meeting last night. So Tuesday night, Levin. It's his first reaction to all of it. I can't give you a timeline of all of it, Levin. All I can say is I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm emotionally tired, and we'll get into that in a minute. But the latest is that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will definitely be in charge for the Spurs game. Maybe even beyond that. And this is because of Sir Alex Ferguson and the board supporting him. And the games after that will be crucial as well. We also have heard that Donny van der Beek will definitely leave in January if Ole is in charge. This is from Romano. And Paul Pogba is saying that he will definitely leave if Solskjaer is in charge as well. What is the future we're going to be talking about? We're going to talk about everything. But it's been quite a couple of days. Where are you sat as a United fan at the moment in all of this? Because, as I said, I'm exhausted.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the fact that this is like my first time to show my reaction to the people. Fortunately, I have calmed down a bit, and I've had the past couple of days to sort of reflect on things, and you know, I'm looking at things in totality, like Solskjaer's reign, and just how I feel about how things have gone, and it's sad because you know I look back at the videos of me excited about the season, and I'm you know when you're looking back at yourself, you're thinking you are so naive, and I'm always good to
I can high five.
Honestly, no, but it's the thing where like. You know, I'm never going to sit here and act like I hit 100% on everything I say. And I look back at certain things that I was saying and that I thought, and I think, boy, was I wrong. Certain things I was correct about in terms of Ollie's still just not being good enough and he needs to prove me wrong. And if he can't prove me wrong, then he needs to leave. And he's not been able to prove any of us wrong. But nah, it's disappointing. It's disappointing. But the reason why I'm not even like frustrated, Mark, it's not frustration. It's just more of a disappointment just because I could see all of this happening. And with the news coming out that, well, what, 3 more games? Oh, we'll give him this. For why? All it does is expose how incompetent the people above him are. He's already exposed that he's incompetent. You know, I love Ollie, but he's exposed that he's not good enough. But this now, what we've seen over the past day or two, whatever, this has just shown how incompetent the structure above him is as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's loads to unpick. I mean, I just want to say as well, you know, I'm sure I tweeted it earlier because I don't normally do that sort of thing. But I mean, if you are feeling like this, I mean, I saw it was a Liverpool fan. It was a good tweet. And they said, it's football at the end of the day. Don't let it impact your mental health. You're in control of that. Well, for one, it's very easy to say when you're a Liverpool fan. And for two, the whole point about mental health is that you're not in control. Because if everyone was in control of their mental health, then people wouldn't suffer with depression and things like that. And I've got to be honest. It's been relentless since Tuesday. Football is my life, really, apart from my family and friends. And Manchester United is my club. And I can't help the fact that I feel wounded. I feel exhausted. I feel so fed up for the reasons that you've said there, Levin, is that it's the incompetence. If there was one thing I could cling on to keep Ollie, I would do. And I ask you that question. Can you see why the club might be doing this? Because I have been searching for hours, and I just, apart from maybe saving money or ignorance, I can't see why they're doing this.
No, it's purely they are incompetent. There was no contingency plan. They genuinely fully believed in Ollie and his ability to make things work, and so there's no plan. Because, you know, Mark, after that result on Sunday, and maybe this is harsh, but after that result, after the way, the kind of, when people are actually talking about that as being like one of the worst losses in our history, one of the worst losses they've seen in the Premier League era, somebody's job has to be erased. And I don't want to, I never want to advocate for someone losing their job, but, you know, something has to change after that, right? And
there has to be a reaction, yeah. You can't just go back to work.
But, you know, no reaction. So what, are you okay with that? You know, there's clearly things going on in the club that just aren't okay. And what it shows to me is that there was no contingency plan. There was no, oh, what if things don't work out for Ollie? Do we have something lined up? Like, you know, is there a plan? It reminds me of what happened with Spurs, you know, this year, where it's like, well, we definitely don't want a Mourinho. All right, let's get rid of Mourinho, let's sack him. But did you have like another manager lined up? It's like, oh no, we'll just get to that when the time comes. But for us, it's just sort of been like, well, actually, we didn't think we'd ever need another manager, but now it probably does look like we need one. And so I think genuinely, because they don't know what to do, like they're just sort of accepting, maybe we just have to bite the bullet and keep Ollie for the meantime, because what are they going to do? There's no, what, are they going to get an interim manager? What, you're going to bring Carrick or someone? You can't do that. You can't bring an expert. You can't bring someone from his coaching staff. Definitely not, right? Because the structure of his coaching staff means that there's a lot more equal sort of playing field for all of them compared to other setups. So if we were to sack Ollie and let's say McKenna was caretaker, it's still Ollie. Like we might as well just still have Ollie there, right? So they can't do that.
You're right, yeah.
Clearly, I don't know about clearly, but with Conte and Zidane and some of these other managers, they've not been in contact with them prior to this. So it's like they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do, and for them, they think the best option is we just sort of ride it out and see what we can do. And it's poor, it's embarrassing.
I spoke to a few people today, a lot of people today, and one of the things I was, because I'm searching, I'm always a devil's advocate. I'm always trying to find both sides. Even in my life, I live my life between the two extremes. I like to understand opinions I don't agree with, because you educate yourself. It's great, but I just can't educate myself on why we've kept him. But somebody said to me today, and I do respect them, and they said, what they're hearing is that United haven't made the change because they're so balls deep in what they were saying a couple of weeks ago. They're behind Ollie for the long term. And to then sack him 2 weeks later, they feel it's too reactionary. But again, I just said, well, it's a reason. I don't understand that reason, Levin. I mean, that's just saving face. That's it.
That's all it is. But that's all it is, Mark, because you look at it and yeah, of course, they're going to feel like idiots if they sack Ollie now. They will. In the summer, you gave him a 3-4 year contract. You did all this propaganda around you, backing him, blah, blah, blah. So now to sack him after, a couple games in the season, even if it's the right thing to do, and I think we all accept it's the right thing to do, it makes them look foolish. It exposes how foolish they've been. Like, I'm really, look, I've moved past my frustrations with Ollie. We've spoken for months, years about Ollie at this stage,
in my
right?
head.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I've had all my complaints about that already. But now it's just really just looking at the people who are above Ollie and just going, you really are just not good. And that's, sort of where I'm caught in minds, because with every manager I've thought about coming into the job, Mark, at some point when I'm going through that thought process, I'm going, the board's going to fail them. Like, it won't even be about them. The board will fail them in some way. The people above them will fail them in some way. The structure of the club is not good enough. It just is not good enough whatsoever. And that's going to hamper anybody that comes in.
It is. And look, I left that up about Sir Alex Ferguson for a reason. I've seen some really wrong comments about Sir Alex Ferguson from United fans. And look, Sir Alex Ferguson has played a key part in this. He was at training today and he has backed Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I absolutely disagree with that. And just because it's Sir Alex Ferguson, I disagreed with David about getting David Moyes. It's hard to disagree with a legend. The greatest man in my footballing life is Sir Alex Ferguson. I disagree with him backing Ollie. I won't abuse him and I won't disrespect him. And I don't think anybody should. People will have different opinions to you. The issue with this is it's a minority few keeping Ollie in a job and they're not listening to the majority. And that is a dangerous thing. That's the frustration. Basically, we know that, it just feels to me like this is 3 or 4 people's decision, Levin, that he's going to stay. And it's not just fans. We're going to talk about Pogba and Donny and many other players in a minute. It's been leaked by very good outlets that many players are not happy. The coaching of McKenna is described tonight as academy level. Like, I can't understand why he's in. I mean, do you think actually, just before you answer that one as well, but also, do you think they're doing this just because they need more time to put something in place? Or do you actually think the scary thing that, no, they're just going to stick with it?
It could be both. It could be either or. But I do think there is a large element of, yes, they need more time to figure out what they want to do. Because like I said earlier, they clearly didn't have a contingency plan. It's like, anybody with a bit of foresight at the highest level of the club should have gone, in a world, if Ollie does just get battered by Liverpool, what do we do? Like, what happens next? And it's like that thought never happened clearly, right? And so now that it has happened, they're sort of going, oh, shit. Ooh, okay, what do we do?
I'm talking to a pragmatic Ollie outer who sent me a video in the summer explaining the problems with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And you're just a fan, Levin. You're just a fan. So if you can think about that in the summer and United are like, shit, we've lost to Liverpool 5-0, having been shit all season. Wow, that's caught us on the hop. I mean, that's the scary thing.
And this is why I honestly fear for any manager. When I saw the reports of like Conte is licking his lips at the United job, I'm thinking, hey, big man, you need to actually watch what's gone on with? You need to figure out why we're in this situation. Do you know what I mean? Like, why are we here? You wouldn't be licking your lips if you knew why we were here, especially Conte, right? But I'm sure we'll get to managers later. Look, the whole SAF thing, I love Sir Alex Ferguson. Sir Alex Ferguson made my childhood a much better childhood, right? You know, he's helped improve the club. He's helped create beautiful history at the club that will never be unwritten. I literally said this last week, Mark, on one of the shows. I said, if Oli is sacked, one of my biggest fears is who are the people making that decision for the next manager? Because I don't trust Joe Glazer. He's going to have the final decision, but I don't trust Joe Glazer. Is it going to be Merter and Carrick? I don't think so. Those guys were in Oli's coaching, not Carrick, sorry. Is it going to be Merter and Fletcher? Fletcher was literally in Oli's coaching staff. It can't really be him, right? Is it going to be Merter? I don't think Merter has that much power in the club. From everything we've seen from reports, it seems like Merter hasn't really had that much power. Is it going to be Ed Woodward? It can't be him. He's leaving, right? And obviously now with the whole he might be staying on, that tells me that they clearly are considering sacking Oli because they want him to stay on. Is it going to be Richard Arnold that just gets the job from? It can't be him. One, he's not a football person. Two, he's just got the job. You can't make him appoint a new manager. Are they going to go to SAF? Not again. I don't want David Moyes part 2. So like, I highlighted that this was going to be an issue, but it's actually become an issue in the reverse because it's what? Sir Alex is the reason, is one of the big influences into why they're keeping him. Look, Sir Alex is a legend, like I've said, and I will never disrespect Sir Alex, but he shouldn't be making these kind of decisions. Like, you know, his time at the club was brilliant, and he himself admitted when he left that he was a dinosaur. Like, he's actually told us, like, this isn't even me or my assumptions. Sir Alex has actually told us that he had to step away from football because he couldn't evolve with the modern game anymore. His time was done, and his time was brilliant, but his time was done. So why now, even 10 years after he said that, he still has influence on football decisions? It shouldn't be like that. That shouldn't be the case. Oli shouldn't be in a job just because Sir Alex is still backing him and a couple of board members don't want to be exposed for being foolish because they gave him a new contract. If you've gotten to the point where you're having a conversation about Oli going, right, the reason that's a conversation is because of the result. If you're at that point, then he probably should just be gone. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you have to actually have that conversation, even after backing him so much, then clearly there's something really wrong here. Like, it's just poor, man. It's embarrassing, man. I'm getting fans from Liverpool, Chelsea, whatever, DMing me just with laughing emojis, but not even messages. I'm seeing laughing emojis. Like, do you know how rude that is, man? I can't even open my DMs without seeing people just laughing at me for supporting United. It's mad.
I said this yesterday. I was like, if you're having to have a meeting about sacking a manager, maybe sack the manager. Like, it's like, don't, I said it this morning as well. I would have gone into that meeting as the head of that meeting saying, look, when he's sacked, bring me solutions. We can't walk out of this office with, he's still the manager, give him another try. And it feels that that's the case. And I think you make a great point. I think for Oli, as a manager, I'm over it. Like, he shouldn't even be here. He's an imposter now. My anger and frustration is aimed at the club. And the only thing that's sort of keeping me from the depths of despair, of depression in relation to football is that I just can't understand the level of incompetence there has to be on that board to believe that the right thing to do is to keep him. I'm still hoping that maybe Friday they're going to sack him, but they're not. If we win on Saturday, that's the big thing for me as well. It's like, if we win on Saturday, which we may well do because Spurs are dreadful, it's very tactical what they've done. If we were going into the Liverpool game, he's screwed. If we're going into the City game, he's screwed. But because it's Spurs and he might win, they can press the reset button and then it's like, well, I don't know what you think. I mean, what would you take for it? What's it going to take for him to get the sack now? Because if you can lose 5-0 to Liverpool at home, having lost 4-2 to Leicester the week before and taken 1 point from 12, the worst thing in the United, if you think about Arsenal, the worst thing that could happen to them is to lose to Spurs at home 5-0. We've just done that with our biggest rival, and our manager has survived. And I don't know what it would take to sack him now. You can basically back him for anything.
Do you know why he is, pardon my French, do you know why he's royally fucked? That team that he played are all the players he trusts. That's his team from last. That's not even like these are some new signings that's come outside of Ronaldo, and that's a whole different conversation. But outside of Ronaldo, that's his team. Like, that is actually his team. Fred, Lindelof and Maguire, Shaw, Wan-Bissaka, De Gea. That's his team. So if his team, if the players he trusts can't do the job for him, which they haven't been able to do. What is he gonna now play the players that he's shown he doesn't like? He doesn't trust Bailly. It's why he played an injured Maguire, so he's not gonna play him. Is he gonna play Donny? He's definitely not playing him. After the stuff that's come out about Pogba, is he gonna play who's he playing? Those are the players he trusts. So if they can't do the job for you, I don't know how he's gonna be able to get these magical results that he once did in the past, right? Because in the past, right, when he got into trouble, he went with players he trusted, like the Matters or the Dan Jameses or whatever. But he doesn't have those guys really now. The players that he trusts were the ones that played and embarrassed him. So I don't really know the longevity in it. I don't get where it goes.
If he started a team on Saturday against Spurs with Eric Bailly in it, Donny van der Beek in it, Delo in it, Tellez in it, all these players he's refused to use, what would you think of that? Because I said this afternoon, I'd disrespect him even more. I'd be like, you're just doing that to try and be popular. That's not strong management.
But even beyond that, that's even more embarrassing. There's so many different angles you can look at this, Mark, because then you can go and go, okay, so wait, maybe are those the players you do trust, but you were just scared of not playing some of the other ones? Because that's a narrative that's been around, right? There's a narrative around that he's scared to not play for Bruno, right? He's scared to not play Ronaldo. He's scared to not play certain players. So if that was to happen now, if he was to just full rotate, people would go, hold on a minute. So what, were you just scared to play those guys now? But now that your job is actually on the line, you're willing to do it, like you said, is it just because you want to appease people? No matter what he does now, he doesn't look good, and that's why, for his own benefit, he should just walk away from it. Unless the team plays like prime 2009 Barcelona, I don't care what happens. I don't care because we can't just flip flop. Like if we beat Spurs and we score a couple good goals, it's a couple nice phases of play, whatever. Honestly, I'm not convinced. That's not going to do nothing to me because I've seen this now too many times. I've seen the response. I've seen the response from the board. After the Leicester game, was it Leicester game or Everton game? After the Leicester game, I think it was, when it was awful. We saw a response where we were getting from these outlets, right? We were getting from the Manchester Evening Newses of the world, the Athletics of the world. The board is fully behind him. They back him. They are behind him. They support him. After the Liverpool result, we didn't hear none of that. So we know that there's clearly conversation behind, even though they've chosen to stick with him because of Saf or whoever, we know that there was clearly a thought about it. So I'm not buying any of this all bounce backs. There isn't bounce back. We need to end this chapter. It was a brilliant chapter. I'm sure I'll tell my kids about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the manager and the player, but we need to end this chapter now.
It is interesting because I don't know what the percentage is, but it's really interesting that I would say this morning, nearly 100% of our fans had come, whether they agreed with it, I'd say 90% agreed with it at least. I'd say 100% were expecting the sack and they could understand why. We've had Sir Alex Ferguson backing the manager, which will play on fans' heartstrings. We've had news that Pogba's against the manager, which we know some people don't like Pogba, so that will get... It's a very clever game that United are playing. They're dripping the positivity, the PR spins to try and get the backing of Solskjaer back. And I think that we're going to see more and more of that. But I'm with you. I want Manchester United to win against Spurs because it's so early in the season. I just want United to win. But if we do win, I'm not going to. There's not one bit of me that's going to be there going, oh yeah, give Ollie a chance. I just know how I know myself, and I also know that press conference on Friday, I'm tempted to just to not cover it because it's just going to be the biggest pile of crap ever. I can't trust the word that comes out his mouth because every word has been spoken already, and it's proved to be false.
Yeah, and Mark, what scares me, and I want to know your thoughts on this. I don't know. This is why it's even scary for me. I know I want Ollie out. I know I want him to, like I just said, end the chapter. I know I want him gone, but I don't know I don't even know what I want after. I don't know what I want next. People are having debates about Conte, Zidane. I honestly don't know. I have thoughts about the way as a fan base we should approach it, but I can't even set my mind on a specific manager just because I'm so conflicted about so many other things at the club, certain players, the structure. Like I said, there's so much that's conflicted right now. We really are a mess, and we're in a real dangerous spot where we could just spiral. Everything could honestly just spiral out of control, and then couple 2-2s, and we're Spurs or we're Arsenal or we're AC Milan or we're what Barcelona they're going to be. You know what I mean? And I don't want that. So I'm just very conflicted right now. I don't know what you want, but I'm very conflicted about what I do.
Well, I want to talk about the managerial situation and what you would want, because we haven't heard from you that. But what I do want to, there was a great comment, I've forgotten what the title of the show was, which is about Pogba wants Solskjaer out. So we better talk about that. And I was asked about a hedgehog thing there, and I was like, hedgehog? I've not been playing Sonic. But what I did say on Twitter was that there's more leaks coming out of United now than a hedgehog's Lilo. And that is true. I mean, there are so many leaks coming out. Romano said about 2 hours ago that Donny van de Beek will leave Manchester United in January if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the manager. This afternoon on Twitch with Romano, somebody said that Paul Pogba will definitely leave if Solskjaer is still the manager. He might stay if he's not. There's two players there, arguably our two best midfielders with Matic, who will also leave. It's the McFred problem again, but apparently... And this has not been confirmed. It's in the rumor mill. There's rumors that Romano thing about Donny is because Donny has been frozen out by Ole and may not even be training with the first team, which I don't know whether that's true, but he's certainly frozen out if he wants to go in January. And Pogba is facing disciplinary action for the red card because there's a belief that it was deliberate and disrespectful. Whether those things are true, and we'll find out, because Man United are leaking, and there are a lot of leaks that will be nonsense. At this time, it's like Christmas presents. You think you're getting socks, whatever. You don't know what's going on. But it's very clear that Paul Pogba has got a very good reason to not be happy with Ole. He was on the bench again at the weekend. He's been on the bench before McTominay and Fred. Somebody was asking before about Ronaldo. I would imagine Ronaldo is on Ole's side in the absence of anything at the moment. Ronaldo loves Sir Alex. Sir Alex back in Ole. 2 + 2 is 4, I think, on that. But not everybody does. Eric Bailly apparently had a go at him, saying, why are you picking an injured player over me when you made me sign a new contract? It is interesting, the player dynamic, Levin, in this situation.
It's interesting in that it's shocking, and it actually goes against a lot of what people praised him for. Right, a lot of people going. So I just noticed what the super chat was. El Sakio, that's class. El Saka, so sorry. Look, a lot of people would talk about his man management ability, or whatever, his ability to keep a positive atmosphere and keep people happy. And I think in many ways, yeah, you could argue that over the course of his whole time at the club as a whole, that's been true. But there seems like no worse of a place to be if you're a footballer right now than a player in our dressing room. It must be awful. There is so much divide, and I'm sure players do have their opinions. Because if you are a player, Mark, right, who's training with the first team, and you're seeing Donny be amazing in training, like people have said, you would be going, hold on a minute, how come you don't play? and some of them will be going, well, actually, I can understand it. They made me sign a new contract, and he doesn't even want to play me, right? There's a lot going on there. With Ronaldo being on Sasa, I don't know, and at the end of the day, we will never know who's who unless they come out and say it. But everything behind the scenes in disarray. Even before we've got to this point, Mark, when you heard things about, Dan James being told he's got a future in the squad, a couple of days later, you don't have a future, we're going to have to sell you. Part of me thinks that's probably what happened with Sancho, right? Where I don't see how we spent 2-3 years chasing Sancho, we've got him, and now it just doesn't look like we know what to do with him. To me, it seems
Grealish
like
is an example of a player that a manager wants, and you go straight in the team.
Do you know what I mean? And even that one, look at how Pep actually treats a lot of the players he signs most of the time. It took Mahrez time to fully get into that Man City team. It took Bernardo Silva and class players. Well, Grealish come, he really wants Grealish, because Grealish has come in and he's basically played every single game. Even class players take time with Pep. But with us, it's like we've chased Sancho for a couple of years. We have him. We're not using him in a position we clearly all knew we needed to use him in. 2, we're not actually helping to integrate him into the system anyhow. And 3, if I'm him, I'm thinking, brother, why did you guys want me? Like, I know I'm class, and but why did you guys want me? You don't want to use me. Like, there's so many confusing things that happen over there, man, and it's sad to me. It's really sad. The Eric Bailly one's, of course, another strong one. The Donny one there's so much that's just very, very confusing. There's so much that doesn't make sense. And when you have this many questions, right, about why certain things are happening, then, something is shambles. Like, don't get me wrong, clubs make questionable decisions, right? Clubs make decisions and they go back on it. Look, Chelsea signed Saul on loan because they felt like they probably would need a backup midfielder. He came, he was a bit stinky in one game, and now they realize actually Loftus-Cheek and Ross Barkley are probably actually decent backups, so we don't even need Saul, right? Like, clubs will make bad decisions sometimes. Like, you know, great managers will make bad decisions. We know that firsthand from Sir Alex Ferguson. But when there's this many things that you're going, okay, but why do you do that? You turn your back on that. Why? It doesn't make sense, Mark. It doesn't make sense, and it's causing headache. I don't want any more headache, man. I just want peace. I don't want problem. I want peace, no headache. I want to just... I hate having these conversations, man. I hate having these kind of conversations. I'd rather just be talking about the beautiful football. Oh, that passing triangle there was brilliant. Like, there's so much that I'd rather be talking about than this, but I'm forced to because the people that are running our club are incompetent.
I actually can't believe we're in this situation because last night when I was talking to Jordan and Kev, no, it wasn't Kev, and Adam and Beth, we were having a chat about which manager we would like, because it was inevitable that Solskjaer was going to get the sack. And I sort of went to bed last night with excitement because I was like, well, if we get Conte, I'm not really sure about him, but he's really passionate on the sideline and he's a winner. And I was thinking, oh, if you get a Ten Hag, he's got a plan. And, you know, and then tonight I'm like, no, we still got Ollie. And I'm like, oh, God, I can't believe it. I absolutely cannot believe it. And also the thing that bothers me is that this is the perfect week to make the change because we haven't got a game. If we lose to Spurs, we're off to Italy straight away after a day off. And if we lose to Atalanta, we're straight into a derby. The next opportunity to sack Solskjaer is the international break, by which time it's another 6 points that we've lost. We could be 10 points off the top by then. Like this, we're just not, you know, Abramovich would have sacked him after Leicester, let's be honest. But, you know, they certainly would have done it by now. That Spurs game should be 3 points. And all it does if Ollie gets those 3 points is confuse the issue because they'll then go, oh, we're back. But he can't be back. I'm just going around in circles, but he can't be back because we've just spoken about Pogba and Donny. And let's not forget, Lingard was promised first team football. That's not happened. Eric Bailly was lied to about a new contract in first team football. He didn't get game time. Dalot's not been given game time. You know, there's so many people that have been lied to in that team. There's so much upheaval. And his only way forward really is to, and Ollie's already said it, it's trust, passion, desire. Well, the only way he's going to do that is by sticking by the players that have actually caused all the problems in the first place.
Yeah.
What? We're all full of problems and anger and frustration. What would you have done? Conte is the one who wants the job. Zidane apparently not sure. You know, other people are in jobs. Would you just go and get Conte?
So what if I was like, are you saying like, what would I do if I was like the chairman?
Yeah, because some people, you know, I've heard Gary Neville, I've heard, you know, the club, and I've heard some fans say they don't want Conte. So therefore, they're basically saying stick with Ollie for now. Is there any other option there? I mean, look, we know how incompetent the board is. They're not going to be able to do a deal with Ajax mid-season. So in effect, if you can't persuade Zidane or Conte, what are you supposed to do?
Okay, so I'll answer that. I saw Alex Stewart say this, and I very much agree. If I was the chairman, to answer the question, if I was the chairman of Man United, what would I have done? I would have resigned. If I was anybody in that club, I would have just resigned and left my job. Two, in terms of actually what can you do, you have to react. And so I think you sack Ollie, and yeah, there was no contingency plan, which is bad, and you should have had one, but you then deal with that after, because like you said, I don't see how you can go back. Like there's too much damage has been done now, to the point where it's like he has been sacked. It's like he has been sacked, and we've just like added him back as the manager, just because it's like, oh no, we can't. You know, it's like Football Manager. You got the editor. We've sacked him, but then we actually just added him back, and it's like it feels like he's been sacked. You know what I mean? You guys are doing a show to talk about the new manager because it felt like he'd been sacked. We're too far gone.
Do you think one of the big problems is that when you normally sack a manager, you can turn around to the coaches because you've normally got good coaches and say, take control for a couple of weeks. But the problem is the players hate the coaches as well. Like they hate, you know, you can't get rid of Ollie and bring Carrick or Phelan in because they're all the problem. They're all a management team. They're all the same. They're all pissing in the same pot, basically. You can't remove Ollie because actually the problem's all four of them, and removing 4 people in 48 hours is difficult.
Yeah, you literally, you know, you can't appoint Carrick to be interim manager, for one, because like you said, he's part of that structure. He's very influential in how we've been performing, because, you know, Ollie relies a lot more on his coaches than traditionally other managers do in terms of setting up tactics, right? So you can't just give one of them the job. Plus, I know, I don't even have to ask people in the chat. None of us want a former player as the interim manager ever again. We don't want it. Don't ever give us a former player as the interim manager. We don't want it. Please don't. So you can't do that. I think, and I understand the downsides to Conte. And Conte isn't my choice. Zidane isn't my choice. And people go, so what is your choice? We'll get to that. But I think you do give Conte the job. If he's the one that is the only one that's really available, I think it's better than nothing in a way. That's the way I see it. I get people going, there's not much longevity in it. And there's a truth to that, because, you know, with Conte, I think you can look at certain situations that he's been in and it's not ended up in the best way. But I think people are very unfair, because a lot of people go, Conte is unstable, Conte is this, Conte is that. And I think Conte does have a bit of a fiery personality. He has the tendency to maybe burn bridges. But when you actually look at where he's left, it's because promises have been broken. And that would happen at United. That's why that's why there's no longevity in it. There's no longevity in Conte just because the board would fail him and he would just leave, right? Not because he's a bad person or it's because the board would probably fail him, right? You know, Chelsea, he wanted Lukaku, they didn't give him. You know, Inter, they said, we ain't got money, we can't spend, we got to sell some of our best players. He said, okay, fair enough, I respect you guys, I'll leave. And that kind of thing would happen. He'd ask the board for something and they'd go, we can't do that. And he'd say, all right, you can't do it, I can't do this, I'm leaving, right? That's where, to me, there's not longevity in Conte. And if anything, that's an indictment on the board. That's not how it should be. All managers are demanding, all managers want better, right? We saw from Van Gaal, he wanted first options, he was getting fifth, sixth. So the fact that a manager is demanding from their board, to me, is not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with that in my eyes. So I don't see that as being Conte's problem. But I think with Conte, you probably have someone who is going to get the best out of this team right now. Yes, he would neglect certain players. Yes, it means certain players would be alienated potentially because they just wouldn't fit what he wants to do. But at least you have a manager who can put us in a position where we are competing with the likes of Chelsea, you know, Man City, Liverpool, right? You have someone that would do that with this squad even though it's not the squad he'd want and he'd want to make changes and whatnot. So, and even if that means he's gone in 18 months or 2 years or whatever, you know, whoever it is, even if that's what it means, I think that's better than us riding things out with Ollie right now. Personally, that's where I'm at.
Are tonight singing Ollie's at the wheel. We're, you know, I mean, look, it's a minor thing, but you've lost the fans, you've lost the players, your results are terrible, your football's terrible, you're being undermined by everybody, and rival fans are singing about you. It's like, how I just you know, I mean, I'd love to interview Sir Alex Ferguson anyway, but I'd love to know the truth. Why is he doing this? There's got to be a plan, because if it's just it'll be fine, let's stick with him, it ain't going to be fine, because there's too many fractures, and quite rightly the players are turning against him. Because I always said this, as fans, it's very obvious to watch the games and see how tactically naive we are, but we're not being coached in the week. The players know more than we do. They're having to run around in that system, and they're the ones who are subject to the team talks and the coaching chats. And look, to be honest, this has been going on for about a year, leaks about poor coaching. And obviously it's come out now because, you know, the results are bad, but it has been spoken about for a very long time. The tactics we used last season, Levin, they weren't that great. Well, you were only out pragmatically in the summer. You know, we did get second place, but the football was very, you know, scales, wasn't it? It was like there was a lot of 1-0, 2-1s where it easily could have flipped the other way. And this season it has. You know, Southampton was a draw instead of a win. Everton was a draw again. Villa was a home loss instead of a home win. You know, they were all very, very, it's been going on for a long time. And yet again, it's just another example of how, you know, this is not a shock and they should have been prepared for it instead of just saying everything was fine. And also, you talk about the short-termism. I mean, how can Conte be short-term when we're just about to do the most short-term thing ever with backing Ollie? This could be as short-term as Saturday.
Yeah, and look, I'll play devil's advocate because, like we talked about at the start of the show, you know, we're open to perspective. I've seen people who have said, look, I'd be willing to bite the bullet so that at least, you know, at the end of the season, we're in a better position where there are more managers who are realistically available, right? And I've seen people give that perspective. And even though that's not where I'm at, I can understand that because I think, yeah, if we were where we're at the end of the season, it'd be a lot better just because at least we'd go, well, summer now, there's more managers available. Ten Hag would potentially be available. Other managers would potentially be available. Whereas, right now they're not.
Right now, there's only Conte and Zidane. I mean, yeah, that's my argument. It's two of the best managers in the world available, but let's wait for some.
So what I'd say, so this is what I wanted to get to at the start. I think a lot of fans are doing a disservice to ourselves by only limiting us to Conte and Zidane, because a lot of people go, oh, we need a manager who is on the level of Klopp, Tuchel, and Pep, because that's who we're competing with, which is true. But a lot of people then forget that outside of Pep, Klopp and Tuchel weren't considered on that level before they went to Liverpool and Chelsea and did what they did there. Yes, Klopp was highly esteemed, and same with Tuchel. They were both very respected, but they weren't at the level where people going, he's the best manager in the world, until they went to those clubs and did what they did. And that's what would happen with us. If we were to get a manager, like let's say we were to get a Ten Hag, right? People acknowledge Ten Hag's a good manager. People aren't saying he's Pep's level necessarily, but if Ten Hag came in here to our club and won something, then people would go, oh yeah, we have one of the elite managers, right? And so, by just limiting us only to Conte and Zidane, I think is unfair. I think the minimum criteria should be, one, somebody that has shown a meaningful and impressive way to improve a team tactically, and there's plenty of managers that have done that, right? Two, a manager who has made waves in Europe, even with potential limitations, right? You see Ten Hag has done that with Ajax. Tuchel did that with Dortmund. Same with Klopp's done that as well in his career. A manager who improves teams tactically, improves, gets results in the Champions League, even against the odds. And somebody who actually probably isn't, directly related to the club the way Ollie is, right? Where it's like, oh, we'll have Saf back in them or whatever. Yeah, I mean, like somebody who has won stuff as well. And when I say won stuff, I don't mean won stuff the way Ollie's won stuff. I'm not talking about titles in Norway. I'm talking about domestically. They've maybe challenged for their league. They've won their league. They've won a couple cups in the league. That's what I think the minimum requirement should be. And to be fair, there are probably quite a few managers that fit that minimum requirement around Europe. I'm not going to sit here and name all of them, and I'd have to go out and do my own research, but there are managers that fit that requirement beyond just Conte and Zidane. And I think if we are in a position where we're not going to get either of those two now, if we are making this decision at the end of the season, we shouldn't just limit ourselves to Conte and Zidane. We should go, actually, you know what? That manager, the Sevilla manager, right? He's actually done a lot of stuff. He's competed in Europe. He's won titles. You know what I mean? So there are more managers than just Conte and Zidane is the point I wanted to make.
Tell you what I love about this. Zidane's only been a good manager because he was at Real Madrid. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's had £400 million. He's got Jadon Sancho, Marcus Rashford, Cristiano Ronaldo, Paul Pogba, Bruno Fernandes. Amazing talent. And we're getting stuffed by teams. Just because you're at a big club with big players doesn't mean it's easy. So I wouldn't dismiss Zidane because he's at Real Madrid. And also he won 3 Champions Leagues in a row, which I don't think anyone's ever done that. So you still got to be able to coach. You've got to have, and more importantly, you don't have to be the coach as a manager. It's about your coaching team. Ollie could have got away with this if he'd put a good coaching team behind him, but he didn't. He put people like himself as the coaches, and that's why we failed. And I agree with what you're saying, Levin, and I can see a lot of people agreeing with you there as well. And this is the great thing. It's always about two sides. My fear is that, there's two things there. If they've got an idea of a manager next summer, fine. That's no excuse to keep Ollie, though. Go and get Laurent Blanc in, or somebody. There'll be somebody out there who's a good coach who will go, yeah, I'll do that job for you for 7 months, and I've got no expectation that I'll keep the job. You can still sack him and get an interim manager in, and then go for what you want in the summer if you want to do that. I think it's a real cop out to keep Ollie in the job. Like we said a few minutes ago, there has to be a reaction to what happened on Sunday and what's been happening. Somebody's got to fall on their sword, and ideally it should be Ollie for that. My biggest fear is, though, because we're talking about incompetence, I don't know what you think about this, but my biggest fear is that what we're actually doing here is we know the Glazers are about money, and we know that top 4 has always been the be-all and end-all. I think they're looking at this and going, we're not bothered about the fans. They're hysterical. We're not bothered about Pogba. He's going to go. We're not bothered about Donny. He's going to go. We still think across a 38-game season, we will get that 4th spot, because who's going to be as consistent as us for the 4th spot? And if we get 4th, that's a good season, and Ollie can stay again. And that's what depresses me. We're trying to be Man United as fans. We're trying to solve problems to be a big club. we already know what the Glazers are trying to do, which is why I'm surprised Sir Alex is on board, because all they're bothered about is fourth spot. If they get fourth, the money comes in, sell another Ronaldo shirt next year. And I just think this is all about money. I think if you sack Ollie and his team, you're spending 10 million. If you bring Conte and his team in, you're spending 20 million. That's 30 million out of their pockets, when ultimately all they want is top four, and they'd rather gamble on Ollie to get it.
Yeah, that's. I don't even
know
want
it's
to.
horrible.
When you put it like that, yeah, it doesn't feel great, does it? Oh God, what's her name, Shelley? Yeah, definitely not that, brother. If you know, you know. You know what, Mark? I think if it is a financial thing, and to be fair, that's what it is. I think
a good point. We desperately need a Gus Hiddink right now.
Yeah, I think if it is a financial thing, which, you know, with the Glazers it always seems to be, I don't know what we can do. What can we just have to sort of accept it? No, like, what, you know, I just don't know. What can we do then? You give me the solution. You're the solution, man. What can we do if that is the case?
There's nothing we can do, because I've always said this and people don't like it. I've always said, if you gave me the choice right now between Ollie out and the Glazers out, I don't understand why nobody wouldn't go Glazers out like me. Because if you change your owners, Ollie gets the sack anyway. So we were very close in the summer after the European Super League, which was a disgrace, but I actually think this is up there, the way they've reacted over the last 48 hours. There was a movement and the Glazers were shitting themselves. And they did that fan forum meeting, and they said, we're all about communicating with the fans. How have they communicated? They've not even put an official statement out. I'm not saying ring Levin up and ask him what we should do about the job, but, you know,
They should.
Well, they bloody should, yeah. They definitely should. But the point is that they've not communicated any of this. They've communicated through the media. What do we do as fans? Well, we just get manipulated by the PR spin and, you know, arguing amongst each other. All last week, they were trying to divide the fan base. Look at the way the fans are singing in the corner. Ollie was saying, you know, those fans who booed, they're better than that. McTominay's coming out and saying, we ignore the negativity and we just focus on the positivity. It was all about what real fans are all week. Instead, and that was the United, that's what they were working on. Instead of thinking, we've just lost to Leicester, let's think about lining up another manager in case we lose to Liverpool. No, let's spend the week dividing the fan base because we want everybody to just sing at the ground, Ollie's at the wheel, because we just want positivity. I don't know what you do, but ultimately that board, I mean, why is Ed Woodward? Ed Woodward was meant to go in the summer. Then he was meant to go at Christmas. Now he's meant to be going in May. He should have gone a long time ago. He is the worst CEO we have ever had. And it's like you said, Levin, even if they sacked Solskjaer, why would you trust these people to bring in a decent manager anyway?
Bruv, they'll bring in Steve Bruce. You man are all going to be singing for, you'll all be singing for Conte or whoever to come in, and they're going to bring in Southgate and Steve Bruce. So I really don't trust these people. Now, I think one of the scariest parts about it is, you know, when we as fans almost feel powerless, right? Like that's what's really scary. I think, you know, we could end up in a situation where, you know, it ultimately doesn't matter because we'll have, you know, you mentioned how maybe they are fine with Pogba and Donny and all these people leaving. I have a problem with that purely because why are we so regularly told otherwise, right? Why do we constantly have at every opportunity, Ollie going, yeah, you know, we want to extend Pogba, we want to keep Pogba, we love Pogba at the club, da, 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 da. I'm not expecting him to talk badly, but why are you constantly emphasizing that you want to keep him? Why are the club constantly, you know, telling the press and the media that they want to extend Pogba's contract? There's a contract on the table for him. If actually they're probably okay with him leaving, right? I'd be fine if, you know, as much as I love Pogba, I'd be fine if he was to leave. I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not gonna die if Pogba leaves, right? And if the club don't want to keep him, okay, but make that decision. Don't be half-hearted. Don't say you want to keep him, make a big deal about you wanting to keep him, and then the manager's not playing him, and there's clearly tension. Do you know what I mean? So we want honest communication. This goes back to what I was saying even before before we got to this point. I was saying that a large part of the issues with the communication are simply because the club, the board, whoever it is, they don't communicate well enough with the fans. They're not honest with us. If they were more honest with us, if we had a better understanding of what actually is going on, what the thought processes are, the direction that they want to take us in, I think you'd appease a lot of people, right? But the fact that it's so unclear is very irritating. It's very frustrating. And it's kind of insulting to a lot of, the people who, like you said, are very invested in Manchester United. You talked about mental health. Some people can't help that, understandably, because Manchester United is our life. A lot of us grew up supporting this team. We're passionate about this team. So, for you, maybe it's just a business decision. Maybe it's just you come into work Monday morning and you're a bit pissed off, so you don't want to do this. But it's not that for me. For me, that you can fuck up my whole week. You know what I mean? Like, you can fuck up my whole month. You have fucked up people's months. You fucked up people's years, right? You need to be far more careful with these things. And I just don't feel like there's that level of consideration. But
what? It's true, because United do some great work about, diversity, mental health and everything like that. But it's a little bit hypocritical how they treat their fans, because the reality is we're continually played on MUTV these great moments, of which most I've lived, certainly in the Premier League era. And, I remember Solskjaer's goal in 99. I remember Sheringham's goal in 99. And I remember what I did afterwards. And I remember how I felt afterwards. And that's a life moment. So if we can celebrate these life moments of happiness and joy, you wear two shoes, and there's joy and there's these moments, and the joy lives with you forever and it's a happy moment. And the bad moments, like Sunday and the next 24 hours, 48 hours, are the bad moments that stay with you. So it's very irresponsible of the football club to just disassociate themselves with the fact that they are destroying many football fans' moods over the last 48 hours through their lack of communication and their ability to yet again drag Manchester United's name through the mud. And that hurts people. It hurts people. We get a lot of people don't like our comments because it hurts them as United fans. I get that. It does matter. And I think United have behaved appallingly again. And it goes back to what we're talking about the players. We know Paul Pogba's going to go in the summer. We know Donny van der Beek's going to go in January. And both are basically linked to Solskjaer. And I want Solskjaer to be sacked anyway. So it's not a choice for me. But what a ridiculous situation that you're going to lose two really good international footballers to stick by this manager.
And you know what, Mark? On that, I don't even mind if it's not a case of listening to the fans, right? I don't necessarily. I see a lot of the narratives that come within our fan base, and I sort of go, do fans think that, right? So I'm not going to sit and act like I agree with everything the fans say. And yeah, I don't necessarily think it's right to always listen to the fans. Sometimes the fans get it wrong. We get it wrong as fans, right? We might see in a different light, but someone needs to be taking responsibility. Someone needs to be taking ownership, right, of some of these things. And it's very, very dangerous. Where I remember when Ed Woodward, when all these new roles were created, and I said that this was going to happen. Now that they've tried to sort of publicly diversify who does what, like the blame's not on Ed Woodward. Like typically, right, we'd all go flipping Ed Woodward, right? We go, well, he's the guy. And when they try to do this whole, Fletcher's the technical director, and Murtaugh's the football director, and Matt Judge does negotiations. So if you don't get a transfer, it's probably him, or maybe it's actually Fletcher, or maybe it's actually. There is no person who's coming and taking collective responsibility in terms of what's actually going on, and that is damaging. That itself is more frustrating. I'm fine if you don't listen to what I have to say. I'm not always going to be right. I don't always know what I'm talking about, but at least I want to know who it is that is not taking in what I'm saying, and I want to know what their thoughts are. I want to know what direction they think we should be going in that's different to the one I think, and that's what we don't have. So
Brendan Rodgers is the man. I don't see how Brendan Rodgers is the man. For one, he's managed Liverpool, which will always be an issue, and for two, he's got no experience at a big club. I think I like Rodgers, but I probably would rather have a Conte. And it's very interesting. I was just reading there, Levin, as well. Another, we're talking about the money, but you could almost dismiss that straight away, because Pogba walks out the door. That's 50, 60 million pound player that's walked out the door. But the club won't see it like that, because they'll go, well, actually, he wants £500,000 a week that we don't want to pay. It's just because logically you don't let Donny and Pogba go because they're Ollie's cheaper to let go. But I just don't trust this club. I don't think they'll see Pogba as 60 million walking out the door. They'll see it as saving themselves 350 grand a week.
I think it's pure. I think them wanting to keep Pogba in the first place is purely brand related, and we've seen how easily they will, do whatever they can to protect their brand. We saw it with the Ronaldo thing. They wouldn't have signed Ronaldo if it wasn't so rumored that he was going to go to City. They wouldn't have budged. But they're scared of the brand not being intact. But the funny thing is if we're not winning football matches, the brand won't stay intact. So that's what you should be prioritizing, right? If they lose Pogba on a free, it doesn't look good. You lost Paul Pogba on a free twice. Twice? One time, I understand maybe you didn't quite see the vision. You lost him on a free twice. Who's making decisions? Do you know what I mean? Like, they are so quick to protect their brand. You know what I mean? They are unreal when it comes to that. They are absolutely unreal when it comes to that. And look, for the people who are going, this person's the man in chat, look, based off of what I said when I talked about, let's not limit ourselves to Conte and Zidane, I very much believe in what I've said, but I will give a counter to that. For every Klopp or Tuchel, you'll get a new Unai Emery, right? Maybe somebody that has that same sort of minimum requirement, but it don't quite work out. And sometimes you have to take that risk. And I'm at the stage where I'm fine with taking that risk, right? Maybe we do bring in even though I don't think that's possible. Let's say we had brought in Nagelsmann before he went to Bayern and it just didn't work out, right? These things sort of happen. And, we've seen it happen in football, but that's the sort of profile we should be looking at is where I'm at. I don't know, Mark. I'm sad. I want to see us win games, but I want to see us win games the right way. And I don't see a world where the football is just better on what was it, Sunday or Saturday? I can't remember. Is it Sunday?
Yeah.
Sunday?
We're playing Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, Saturday.
I just don't see a world where the football's just better. So even if we do win, what's it really about? What's it mean?
Well, that's the thing. It's the contradiction about not getting Conte because he's short term. Well, short term with Conte is 2 years. Ollie is so short term. I mean, I was going to say that, where we go from here. I heard somebody on Twitter. Well, I read somebody on Twitter saying it the other day. If Ollie turns this around, fine. It's unprecedented. We've never seen it before. It's like the pits of the cellar to the highest skyscraper, isn't it? It just doesn't look logical. And it's not like he's had 3 months or 7 months like Moyes. He's had 3 years and we are where we are. He shouldn't be the manager anymore. But like you say, if you win on Saturday, which I hope we do, we won't win in a way where we can go, oh, he's picked the right players and he's played the right way. We'll win like we did last year, where he grinds it out with McFred again. And I think, I feel so deflated, so sickened by what's happened at this football club. And I feel absolutely tired. And that's mental tiredness of what's to come, because I know we can go and win the next 3 games. We probably won't, but we can. But if we do, it will be diabolical football and we'll just grind it out with moments. And he's just going to be sat there smiling again, going like this. And I'm like, I've got nothing against Ollie, but this is so short term. We will lose a game badly, and it might not be Chelsea. It could be Watford. It could be Crystal Palace, but we will lose a game badly again. And we'll be having this, and we're having this chat again. And I just don't, the interesting thing I was going to ask Levin is what do you think the future is? But also in relation to that, it's hard to predict what's going to happen with the fans. There will be fans who, fantastic our away support. They'll be chanting, singing Ollie's at the wheel because they think it's the right thing to do. And nobody should say it's not the right thing to do. They can do that. They've done it for years. They did it for Moyes. They should do that. Personally, and I don't know how many other people feel like this, when I said Ollie out, that wasn't a whim. People were wanting me to say it for weeks. And I was like, there'll be a point when I do it. And now I've done it. It will take me, I ain't going to go Ollie in next week. Like if it's took me this long to go Ollie out, I ain't coming back Ollie in just because of a couple of wins. It's going to take, I think it would take me to the end of the season. We'd have to be holding up the Premier League title. Yeah.
I'm not even thinking about the possibility. Like many people, for me, the chapter has ended. I don't. That's why it's almost going to be weird, like seeing him like on the sideline on the weekend, because it's going to be like it should be done now. Like, I don't get it. It should have been over, but we're in a position where it's not. And on that, Mark, this isn't the first time we've seen the club do this. The club create these scenarios all the time, because you're right. Even if things were to get good, the second we lose, we're having these same conversations again. But they've created that, similar to the whole goalkeeper situation. even if David De Gea has been brilliant, right? But the second David De Gea has 1 or 2 bad games, people start talking about Dean Henderson again, right? The club creates that, right? And you know, it's one of these things where it's very, very poor, but all the things we talk about, like this whole show, how long has it been? 54 minutes? This whole show, all these things we talk about just link back to the same set of people. The people above Ollie making the decisions, they aren't good enough. That's all it is.
And also, I said this yesterday, I don't know what your thoughts are. I actually think that although Ollie will be begging to keep his job because that's just what people are going to do, I look at this and think that if he'd been sacked this morning, there would have been a conversation. We would have probably been having this chat tonight saying, look, he's a legend. He still is a legend. He tried his best. He came up short. You wish him all the best. Maybe he can get the Norway job. Maybe he can get a championship job, whatever. And we hope he does. And then we move on. All that anger and frustration towards Ollie is over. And the nice things come out, which he deserves, because we're moving on. I just think this, you know, some people were saying on Monday, oh, he's destroyed his legacy. And I said, no, he hasn't. He's still a legend of this club. I think this is dangerous for Ollie because there is no love in the bank for hardly any fans. There's no trust in the bank for many fans and players. And this just gets this. If there's people who just can't come back from this, it just becomes very, very, very hard for him.
Yeah.
The media as well. The media are not going to let him off either.
I always say to people, like, don't throw abuse his way. As much as you know, there are many ways to express how you feel about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer without having to say mean, nasty things about him. There are many ways, but yeah, you know, this is an environment that once again these people have created, and I really hope for his sake that he doesn't read social media or read anything, right? You know, I hope for his sake he doesn't, because it's not going to be nice. It isn't. And I wish people wouldn't be that way, but people are going to be that way. You know, there's nothing, you know, I can tell people not to be. We can use our platform and tell people not to be, but there'll be people in this chat who are still doing it. There'll be people who, you know, endlessly do it forever. That's just how it is now, you know?
Yeah, and look, people saying he should resign. I know Gattuso did it, and I know it would be nice because he would be gone. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of money there for him if he doesn't, if he walks away and he does resign. Anyway, he should have a job in the bank anyway, because Gary Neville loves him. Surely he'll get him a job at Salford. Be interesting to see if he gave him a job at Salford actually, and how long he lasted at Salford.
He wouldn't give him a job at Salford.
Which is so contradictory, isn't he? He wants him to stay at United, but he probably wouldn't give him a job at Salford. I think he should have to give him a job at Salford. I think Gary should come out and say, I want him to stay at United, and if he doesn't stay at United, I'd definitely give him a 4-year contract at Salford, and he's got to keep him for 4 years. Let's see what happens. That would be interesting. But look, I think everybody's exhausted. I'm definitely exhausted. I'm going to try and switch off for a few hours because I haven't switched off since that Liverpool game, and I'm exhausted. And I think I'm going to let Levin close up as well. But for me, on a serious note, it might not hit many people, but it certainly hits me, and it might hit some of you. Man United matters to me. Football's been my life and always has. I just love football. So I mean, I can't just switch it off. I'm engrossed in it, always have been. And Manchester United's my team. So I'm fed up. I feel really gutted. I feel really depressed, and I feel really, like Levin said, useless and powerless is the word. Yeah. Because I know what needs to happen, and we're just in that. You know, Pogba probably will leave twice. People go, oh, they can't let that happen. What happens to the Glazers if they let him leave twice? Everyone calls them useless again. Well, they're used to that as long as the money's coming in, as long as the dollar's coming in. So all I was going to say is just take care of yourselves and remember that we're all in the same boat. Whether, you know, we're all fans, and you know, we've all got to look out for each other. So, you know, if you are feeling fed up, it's not unusual, and that's something that I think is really important. Levin?
All I say to people is, look, whether you agree or disagree with people's opinions, whether that be mine, Mark's, whoever it is, I think there has to be an understanding that a lot of people just want to enjoy watching Manchester United play. They just want to be happy. They want to see our club successful. I don't agree with everything I see. I don't agree with everything Mark says. I'm sure he doesn't agree with everything I say. But we have these conversations because we care. And we appreciate all of you guys once again for hanging out. As always, there's a lot of people here. You know, we'll continue the conversation. I got a busy week, so you can't get away from it, Mark, but I can. I got a busy week, so I'm gonna try my best to stay away from football. Plenty of events.
I played FIFA this afternoon on Twitch, and I was looking to raid you because I always do, and I saw you went there. But I tell you what, at the start of the stream, I was like, I don't want to play FIFA. I don't want to play with United players. 20 minutes in, I'm like, this is the best stream I've ever done because it was just pure escapism. Yeah. Enjoying the sport, I really did, and loads of people watching, and they enjoyed it as well. And so I big up to you that you've got stuff like that to do because it's the best thing to do. Just take your mind off it. I've been on 2 walks today. I never go for a walk. 2 walks. That's when you know someone's going through it in life, when they're taking mad walks. It's funny though, because you see, like when the game was happening, I was working, and like, so I'm doing a show in front of like 10,000 people, whatever, and people were like messaging me like, I can't wait to see your face on the broadcast when like after this result. And someone like screenshotted it, right? And it was like my face, and you can just see the despair in my eyes. And it was like, it was just painful, but just get away from it. Just get away from it. So yeah. Well, have a good week, everyone. Enjoy your escapism. I'll be back in the morning show. And hopefully have a good night's sleep. I think I'm just going to stop looking at Twitter, and I'm going to go and watch Heat or something that is just a film that I can just switch off to. Because the reality is, I would advise everyone does it for the night. That's my tip, because there's not going to be a tweet about him getting sacked. He's here till Saturday. It's Tuesday night. Leave it for tomorrow. Get yourself, just escape for a bit. That's what I would do. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. You can follow Levin at Levin2K on everything. There's no E. It's Levin2K. And we will speak to you soon. Thank you everyone for watching. Smash the like on the video, subscribe, and all that jazz.